Hey guys, Sam here. So, moving on with our series reviewing all the Criterion movies that I own, we're moving on to number 30. I always forget the numbers on these things. Number 35, Diabolique, from French director Hen- henri-georges Clouzot. I took French for 7 years, so I have to say it like that, even though I probably pronounced it wrong. Um, so Diabolique, released in America as The Devils, is a very early example of a psychological thriller, uh, released in released in 1955 to critical acclaim and audience success. It was a film. It was one of the first examples of a film being released, um, advertising that it has a twist or built around a twist ending. Films that had surprises or things that go differently than you'd expect or messing with audience expectations. But no film had really built itself around a twist or had marketed itself around that. In fact, at the very end of the film, there's a message from the director being like, "Hey, you know what happens. Don't spoil this for your friends. Like, make sure they have the same experience you did." And as a film built around a twist, that would eventually go on to inspire Psycho, most famously, I think Diabolique is a really solid movie. It tells the story of this woman named Christine, right? I don't know anything I'm talking about right now. Named Christina, who is married to this awful guy that essentially married her in South America, and then they moved to France, where they've opened up this boarding school for boys, and the husband runs it, and the wife is just sort of a teacher there, and is also like she's the one that has the money essentially. But then the husband has a mistress that is also one of the teachers at the boarding school. But what makes this relationship unique is that everybody knows that this is happening. So like Christina knows the mistress, the husband knows that they know each other, and both the mistress and Christina seem to hate the husband's guts, and he is a really awful person. The film doesn't really try to. The film doesn't try to redeem him. He is a terrible person that is abusive mentally, physically, sexually. He's just a very angry, just awful, mean person throughout the entire film. And it becomes very clear early on that both of them are trying to plan to murder him. And so it's this whole elaborate plan where they're going to go away for the weekend. They're going to try to convince him or find a way to get him to come to the apartment they're staying in. They're going to drown him, put him in a basket, and then dump him in the pool by the boarding school so that eventually his body can be found whenever they have to drain the pool itself. And so the first half of the film is that plot coming together. Then the second half is the aftermath, where it appears through some various circumstances that maybe the husband isn't dead, or if he is dead, his ghost or something still seems to be haunting the school and haunting Christina herself. Um, and in that sense, it is a very effective thriller that does a great job of looking at like gaslighting and at at maintaining this mystery, because you're never quite sure what's going on, what's real, what isn't real. And I mean, the main performance from Christina is fantastic. She's supposed to be this very frail, this is very like frail, sensitive woman who has a heart condition, and I mean, she does a great job of portraying that. Um, and I mean, the woman that plays the mistress, she's very like sultry and very like cunning. She just has this very like femme fatale look to her. I mean, they all do such a great job. And I think what sets this apart from many other thrillers is how much it focuses on like the world or the characters around the murder mystery. Where you get to know the other teachers at the boarding school, you get to see some of the kids and their interactions, and it really establishes this world so that you can sort of be in Christina's shoes, right? So that when things do get extraordinary, like with the murder, like with the possible haunting, you're sort of disoriented with her. You're just as surprised and shocked as she is. So you understand where she's coming from when she reaches these bizarre conclusions or has these erratic behavior. You're sort of there with her during the whole thing. And I mean, it's just an extremely well shot film. I mean, it has a lot of similar like lighting and shadows, especially in the final sequence, which the final sequence is a masterclass in suspense, honestly. And it has a lot of similar lighting to like German expressionist films or to like horror films, like monster horror films in the 30s. That's really effective and really creepy, and it creates this very like disturbing, horrific atmosphere that I just think is super effective. I mean, overall, it's just a really good mystery, a really well done, solid movie that would go on to inspire Hitchcock and, you know, so many different filmmakers and films. And in fact, one of the special features on here is a film writer talking specifically about that, how much this film has influenced others and why it's such a big deal. There's also an interview with someone who is an expert on the director, and sort of it's them talking about his influence and like his career, and that's pretty interesting. And the essay in there as well. It's not one of the better essays. I think it's essentially just really again, it's going through the history of Clouseau and like talking about the film a little bit. But overall, I mean, it's a good essay, but not the best they've ever had. Yeah. And well, one point I want to bring up is one of the things that was really striking to me about the film was this motif or this imagery of water. The film starts like in a close up of a puddle of water, and like the credits are rolling over it. The murder happens inside of a bathtub full of water. They drop they dump the body in a pool. And I was just really fascinated by that. Why they include all this water? And I think the reasoning for it is because water is supposed to be like, a lot of the water in the film is very murky, right? And water is also something that's very malleable, that is easy to sort of morph and change and can easily change itself to fit within different containers and different perspectives. And so I believe the water is supposed to represent Christina, who is someone that is being manipulated the whole time, that is never quite sure what is doing, but can easily fit into various situations. It's never clear. She never fully understands what's happening. And I think that is a really well done motif, and it's subtle enough that it doesn't affect the movie, but it does give a little more depth or a little more interest. And that's some things I really appreciate about the film, and one thing that elevates it is just, it does have this artistic merit to it that brings it above your standard thriller and makes it into something more engaging, more interesting, more fun to analyze. So that's Diabolique. I recommend it. It's a good time. I maybe stream it on the Criterion channel rather than go out and buy it. I think it can be a little dated at points. But overall, really interesting and fascinating movie. So next time we will be talking about Time Bandits by the controversial man-child himself, Terry Gilliam. We'll be back next time to talk about that, and hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.